exactly. So again, what somatic experiencing does, it helps restore us to what we would do naturally. Where there's so many cultural inhibitions to celebrate and to really notice what's going on inside, and to feel okay about, we don't have to walk down the street going, but it's more what happens on the inside than what we have to express on the outside. And so a lot of the times I'm working in my practice with people just celebrating the fact that, wow, what you did worked, or you wouldn't be here. You made good choices. Okay, everybody good with that?
Thank you for telling us. It's so good to know.
Yes, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, you can say Ariel says it's okay to celebrate.
Right. That's all the kids and all the grandkids and all the neighbors' kids and everybody else.
Really? I mean, seriously. We need to celebrate when our kids and our grandkids and our dogs and everybody do it right. It's like, good dog, you really did that so well. Yeah. I mean, actually, I think we're more enthusiastic with our dogs than we are our kids sometimes. Like, oh, what a good boy you are. Yeah. We're able to be more foolish with our pets sometimes. Okay. So I wanted to show you one more thing. And this is what, where are we? Here we are. This is a kind of classic situation here. Again, nobody gets hurt. And what we see here, this is sort of, what we see here is a polar bear, poor polar bear, coming out of hibernation. Hibernation is deep parasympathetic. Deep parasympathetic. The polar bear has just come out of hibernation, and this researcher is going to tranquilize him. It's a tranquilizer gun, it's not a gun. And then do some research on him. So what you see here, is a polar bear escaping, which is very unusual for polar bears. They don't have any natural predators. So you could look at this as a flight response. The polar bear is getting away from the threat of the helicopter. He's orienting, he's noticing, what is this thing? He's running to try to get away. So then the tranquilizer gun is a state, it's basically a paralytic is what they give them, yeah? So the animal is still very much aware of what's going on, but it's an induced freeze response, right? Now some animals go into freeze response just naturally, yeah? But polar bears tend not to because they're usually more the aggressor. So how we look at this is that this polar bear was attempting to escape. He was in sympathetic arousal, and his response of protection and escape was interrupted by this paralytic. So, as I talked about earlier, an animal will naturally complete a response if given the chance to do it. This one was interrupted. This one was interrupted by something very false. But what you'll see as the polar bear starts to come out of the paralytic, that he is actually completing the response in his movements and discharging a lot of the energy.
Like non-skid material, and it's all sort of rough, not really smooth. It helps him get better
It's a
traction on
serious
the ice.
flaw, isn't it?
That's almost like sandpaper. And then of course big claws for ripping, breaking into seal layers. But he hasn't started to really chip his teeth. If you watch that animal after he finishes convulsing, you'll see, because he's aware of the fact that we're all around him, and it's a very stressful experience for an animal like a polar bear. And after he settles down, and then he'll start doing a couple of deep breaths, and then he'll breathe really nicely, and here he goes. See how he's breathing?
So this is the completion of the response. It looks bad, but it really isn't. It really isn't. What's hard for this animal is that he can't get away, right? So it's very unusual for a bear to be in that. So what you see is that there's this discharge that happens. There's this running response, and then the parasympathetic comes in naturally, and that resets the system. And it's this part of the cycle that humans usually don't notice at all. Usually we're like go, 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 and something big happens, but I have to go pick up my kids or get to my job, and we don't complete the cycle. And that's why it gets caught in our system. So we're going to watch this in slow motion.
It lets off all that stress and then is able to relax and sleep the thing off.
So that part of the cycle is really important for bears and other creatures. So when you slow it down, you see that these movements that look like a convulsion are actually quite organized in their running. And the biting is, again, it's a threat response. It's like, I want to protect myself. So the bear's body is showing us what it really needs to do. It wanted to run, it wanted to bite, and it discharged all that activation, and it takes this great big deep breath. They can then move away from it, and he'll just get up and he'll walk away from it. That's the completion of the cycle. And you see how much calmer he looks once he does that. So you see he's running. He's running and biting. And so one of the things that we do as a treatment orientation is to help people complete these cycles that they didn't get to do. So what does that mean? That means that most of us and most of our clients and our patients who have any kind of childhood trauma at all, whether it's neglect or abuse of some kind, they never had an opportunity to protect and defend themselves, because children just can't. The only way that they can protect and defend themselves is usually go into freeze, or they hide, yeah? And so there's all these incomplete responses that are held in our clients' bodies if they had any kind of childhood stress, which is pretty much everybody on the planet. Yeah? And so what we do with SE is we keep holding this question, is what is it that didn't get to happen? What didn't get to happen? Well, we know that we are designed to protect and defend ourselves. We know that when we feel any kind of threat, whether it's from a parent or a teacher or anybody that's a stranger on the street, our bodies automatically and involuntarily respond. We can't stop it from responding. We can prevent it from reacting, but we can't prevent it from the response that it has. Yeah? And so often what didn't get to happen, especially for children, is pushing away, protecting themselves, moving away, moving towards somebody else for comfort. Yeah? That's the incomplete response that didn't get to happen. So we don't spend a lot of time, we certainly listen to people's histories, but what we're really wondering is, why is this still held in the system, and what is it that didn't get to happen? What part of the cycle didn't get to complete and finish? And it's often something like the polar bear. It's wanting to run away. It's wanting to fight back. It's wanting to have a voice. No, don't do that to me. It's also wanting very deeply to move towards somebody, if not the parent, then some other competent protector. It might be a teacher or a mentor of some kind, an older sibling, another relative. So we're always working with the body and helping it do what it didn't get to do. And this, I have to say, is one of the most satisfying things in the whole world. And it makes it really wonderful for the practitioner, because before I learned SE, I would sit for hours and hours and hear these horrible stories, and I would be empathic and I would help them express emotionally. But it was really just doing over and over again what they did. The only thing that was really reparative about the therapy I was doing before is that I was listening and caring, which is huge. Trust me. Being a caring, present, empathic other is, a big part of healing. But the physiology wasn't being addressed. It wasn't being touched. And when I started to bring the SE awareness into it, everything started to change. And therapy started to become really fun and not tiring. Because there's this constant balance. Peter has this expression, he calls it pendulation. And pendulation is this natural flow of the system between activation and deactivation. And SE is designed to restore that flow, where I start to recognize that I'm getting out of my range of resilience, I have tools to come back, and I can ride the waves. The other thing that SE is always doing is it's holding this balance of trauma and what we call resource. Resource is what worked. Resource is who was there for me. Resource is the decisions that I made, and all the ways that helped me get through that. So there's this beautiful balance of all the bad things that happened, but a lot of emphasis on the orientation towards, wow, that the fact that you hid under the bed saved you. Well done. Yeah? And so we're building the felt sense constantly, the awareness of the body, of all these good decisions that people made, as well as search for that there were probably more resources back then than people even realized or remembered. And again, from our clinical perspective, recognizing how resourceful and resilient our clients really are versus, oh my goodness, they're so traumatized, they are so messed up, or ourselves. And being able to focus more and more on our resilience makes everybody happier and makes therapy a lot more pleasurable. And people walk away feeling empowered. They have a sense of mastery. Yeah? And that's the gift that we give them. This sense. It's not even a sense, it's an experience that I can handle and manage anything that comes up in me. And that's a really beautiful gift to give people. Yeah. So I think we need a break.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
My what you call it, the
Parasympathetic?
yeah, went very much high up when I saw this. Could we please see the bear run away?
That's it. That's the end of the video.
That's the end.
Yeah, he does run away. He does run away. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have it in the video, but you can go into National Geographic. No, but what he did was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, is that he ran away even though he couldn't physically. It's like his body knew exactly what it needed to do. Yeah. And it was doing it as best as it could. And he did get up and walk away, probably a little groggily. Yeah. So, as I said, he didn't get hurt. He was just interrupted. All right, so let's take maybe a 5 or 10 minute break, and I'll ring this little bell. And so SE can be used as an immediate stabilization. It can also be used for just about every kind of a trauma that you can imagine. Childhood trauma. One of my specialties is pre and perinatal trauma. I do a lot of work with conception to the first year of life. I work a lot with infertility. I work a lot with sexuality. We have people trained in the medical world. We have physical therapy. We have all different kinds of people, and that's kind of what I like about SE, is that we have a very rich learning environment. We don't just say, oh, you have to be a psychologist or a something. Anybody who has access, who works with anybody, including children or even pets that are traumatized, will get a lot out of the education. It's very broad education. We have, we work with, I'm going to show you a clip of a very, very traumatized veteran. We work with addictions, eating disorders, pretty much everything, really. And again, it's not even so much about how we do it, it's how we look at what we see is showing up in someone. And so again, it's this kind of lens, it's a perspective. And so once you understand the SE principles, which are actually not that challenging, there's just maybe 10 or 12 basic principles. then you can actually do it with anybody. And that's what makes it extremely flexible and adaptable. And I quite like that. I'm just going to show you 5 or 6 minutes of this film. You'll get a chance to see Peter and get a sense of who he is. He's a very sensitive, beautiful, delicate man. And I know what I want to say. And there's so much that's going on in a way, I guess you'd call it under the radar when you're doing a somatic experiencing session. And mostly what we're actually learning when we're doing this model is deep attunement. The ability to, the learning of attunement is one of the primary skills that we learn. How do we connect with another? How do we support someone in feeling safe in our presence? How do we work at a pace that is absolutely in line with what the client is ready for? And how do we know when to push a little bit and when not to push a little bit? So there's a lot of this very gentle attuning and resonating that is a big part of the SE model. And so what is happening at the same time, regardless of what it is we're working, I could be working a car accident, but the way that I am with someone, the pace that I work, the kind of questions that I ask, the expressions on my face are actually also working very, very deep developmental trauma. So these two parallel experiences are going on all the time. And mostly what people are most affected by with SE is feeling really seen, felt, and heard in a very, very new way. It's a very, very intimate model. You have to be comfortable with intimacy. And as soon as you invite someone to express what's going on in their deepest core self, it's very, 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 very intimate and very beautiful. So let's watch this. This was a training video that Peter made. Oops. Sorry, it's going so fast. So he just came in to a case consultation. Let's stop this so you can read it. It's so fast. So I mentioned this before, right? We're always moving between these two polarities. Which helps bring the system into this very deep sense of balance. We're not going to watch 2 hours. We're not even going to watch 5 hours. So.
In your words, what kind of help what you've been struggling with?
I'll say the biggest thing I've been struggling with was probably just PTSD.
I love that, huh? Just PTSD.
He
So,
said that.
yeah.
He did.
Yeah. So Peter said, how can I help you? Basically, what would you like from this? Tell me what you've been struggling with. And he just says, well, just basically PTSD.
Yeah.
Kind of like indigestion,
Yeah. Dealing with just really large crowds.
Large crap.
Dealing with
Large crowds.
large crowds.
Oh, and large
Oh,
crowds.
We got our mom here. Our own personal crowd.
So notice the movements he's making, yeah? And like it said in the introduction, that he was diagnosed with Tourette's, and he was on heavy amounts of medication for Tourette's. Yeah. But again, through the SE lens, we're saying, oh, no, that's not it at all. We know what this is.
It's all right.
Hmm?
It's all right.
It's all right. Why don't we check it out? It's a pretty shady looking characters here, right?
So orienting, just what I did with you. Look around.
Check it out a little bit. See what they look like?
Do you need it louder? Are you having a hard time hearing? Anybody need it louder? Yeah.
It's good when you repeat. When you
I will
have
repeat,
stress.
yeah. I realize that the sound isn't so good, so I'm happy to repeat it. Maybe just turn it up a little bit.
Sure.
It sounds muffled for some reason.
How's
So-
everybody doing?
Orienting. That's good.
Anyhow, they came here for one purpose and one purpose only. To support you.
Thank you.
So, what it says here is that the main event, at least that's triggered these symptoms, is an explosion.
How'd you get all this? How'd you find out?
Well, listen, I
Oh,
guess I'll give a little bit of background.
All right.
Yeah. And what kinds of symptoms are you having?
Well, in the beginning, this happened on June 18th of this year. And in the beginning, I had to kind of teach myself how to walk, talk, and think again.
Okay, that's big information, yeah? Happened in June, this is December. 6 months, he had to teach himself to walk, talk, and think again, right? So we look at that as, wow, let's jump on that. That is a resource. That is resilience, yeah? So instead of continuing with the story, we want to stop that right there. And that's the time to go into the body when something works, when something is good. So I think the question that Peter asks, how did you do that? Yeah. So part of SE is knowing when to interrupt the story, when to go in, work it a little bit, bring awareness again to resource, resilience, what the body does right, yeah, and then continue with the story again. So that's what's happening here.
And I guess every day it's been getting a little better, kind of. Now mostly I'm dealing with sensitivity to bright lights,
Yes.
Bright lights.
lack of concentration, headaches.
And you just said that you learned to walk, talk, and think again. How would you do that?
I just fought for a lot of things. Everybody told me I would push things too much, but I just fought for everything that I wanted because I wanted to be able to. I don't like it when people take care of me. I can't stand it. So I mean,
You want your independence.
exactly. I wanted my independence back, and I don't like the idea of being a burden to somebody. So I fought for my walking, and then my talking. So.
The involuntary movements that you make with your head and neck like this, when did that begin?
I'm gonna say like a month and a half after the last.
Now, I'm going to give you an idea.
Okay.
And we'll see where we can go with it, okay?
Okay.
See, the movements that you're making are the kind of movements that your body would have made if there was an explosion. You know? And what it's doing is it's kind of repeating those movements over and over again. It's sort of like you got stuck there. Okay? And what I like to do is see if I can give you some tools so that you can begin to...
Okay, so this is important, yeah? So I talked earlier that the body, when it's exposed to threat, has an involuntarily, automatically responds, right? So imagine that, right? There's an explosion. Not just one explosion, there were actually 2 explosions that happened. 2 IEDs went off. So you've got this one response, automatic, a protection, and then another one happens. Yeah? And it happened so fast that his body didn't really have a chance to complete the response. I mean, and what's amazing about this guy, I don't know if it's in this particular tape, is that he was still functioning after all this. He still called on his radio to get support for his team, and then he passed out. Yeah, so he was able to function afterwards. So when you have these, again, these situations that happen where our body automatically and involuntarily responds, and it doesn't get a chance to complete, it often gets looped. And what's interesting about Ray, this guy, is that it's real obvious. It's not so obvious in most of us when we get caught. It's very, very hidden a lot of the time. Sometimes it shows up as obsessive thinking and ruminating. Sometimes it shows up in addictive behaviors. Yeah, something just keeps getting cycled and cycled and cycled, and there's no way out of it. His is observable, so it actually makes it easier to work with. So what Peter is going to do here, and again, I don't know how much explanation he goes into, is that there's a sequence of movements. Yeah, and in a way, it doesn't matter what the sequence is. So there's an explosion. It could be the shoulder goes up first, the neck protects, the eyes want to go that way. It doesn't really matter. It could have been more of a grimace. Is that you want to go into one of those patterns, just one moment in that cycle, and interrupt it, work it, and stretch it. And that interrupts the pattern and allows the completion of the response. So that's what Peter is doing here. And what's amazing, I'm not going to show this to you, but there's a video of him, I think it's like 6 weeks later. He has absolutely no twitches at all. He is 100% normal in his twitches. He's got other stuff going on. He has a lot of other stuff going on. But the Tourette's was cured just by interrupting the pattern. You know? I mean, it's really quite phenomenal. And no one, unless you have this lens, you have this model that you understand that what people are showing you in their bodies is often a response to a time they felt threatened. And they just never even looked at it that way. So we'll finish this and then
You ever had taffy?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
He likes
I
that.
used to love the saltwater taffy. Get back east. But you know, if you take the taffy and you pull it, it breaks, right? But if you hold on to it and you just pull it softly, like this, you can just stretch it all the way out. And I'd like to see if we can get you some tools so you can stretch this out so that these reactions are a little bit softer. See, these reactions are part of a healthy mechanism to discharge some of the shock that got locked into your body with those explosions, right? But the thing is to do it in a way so that it's very, so it releases, so it doesn't just keep going around. So here's what we're going to do to start. Okay? I want you to try to become aware of the movement even before it happens, or just before it happens. You know, if you have a glowing ember and if you blow on it and it ignites into a flame, I want you to try to become aware of what's happening, what you're feeling in your body just before that happens. Not easy.
So, see, this is here, yeah? So, we have activation that goes into a reaction. And what Peter's doing, and he's interrupting it before the action can finish or it gets too much. So he's interrupting it at this one little spot, which prevents it from moving on to the rest of it. And it interrupts and changes the pattern. So in a way, his body keeps trying to complete this response over and over and over again, but it's caught. There is no completion. Something else has to happen, which is to interrupt it and then let the body do something else. Does that make sense? Yeah? So we'll just watch a
It's
little
not
bit.
easy. But just as we're sitting and talking here, okay, just then, I don't know if you were aware of it, but that movement was a little bit softer. Instead of being like this, it was more like that. Okay? Okay. So the more we can do to stretch that out, to soften it, I think you'll begin to set it. Here's what I'm going to have you do now. I'm going to have you very slowly, very gently, opening and closing your mouth just the smallest amount, and then come back a little bit, and then just go to where you feel a little resistance, and then come back a little bit. I know it seems a little bit crazy, but humor me. So you're going to just open your jaw, your mouth, just a little teeny bit. And just when you feel some resistance, then don't push the resistance, and then just let your mouth close just a little bit. And then again, just open it. As soon as you feel that resistance, just come back again. And as you do that, that will trigger those movements probably, but will also give you a chance to feel what's going on before the jerks, okay? So let's just do that together, okay?
So Peter, we couldn't see it because
Did
it's
you
on the
feel what
other
happened
side.
that time?
But Peter probably noticed that he was clenching his jaw, and it was being done unconsciously. So we go into the unconscious movement, we slow it down and make it conscious. And that interrupts the pattern. Yeah. So this is the kind of tracking that we learn, yeah? We learn not just to listen to what's going on, but how the body is responding to whatever the content is.